Okay, that music was supposed to be all jazzy party, but it got a little bit soft, and now I'm falling asleep. So I'm going to start talking to you guys. We're going to get started here in about 5 minutes. But I wanted to ask you if you would. We're going to keep cameras off, even though I want to see your wonderful faces, because we're going to have a lot of things open and going on, and it'll help with if you have any internet lag. We're going to test out my computer today and see if we can all get on to a synchronous instructor pace Pear Deck, because I've had issues with that before. But no worries if it's not. I can switch to pace and share that out with you. But I do want to make you my guinea pigs again and see if Martha, my Mac, Martha's ready up, and we're going to see if Martha can help out here. So we'll start here in just a few minutes. All right, buddy, we're going to start here in just a couple minutes. If you have any tabs open besides Zoom, you might want to close those. We're going to have a lot of tabs going on today, and we're going to start here in just a few minutes. So if you have anything, you might need a bookmark, or you can get back into your history later. That might be a good idea to close any bookmarks you have or any tabs you have open besides the Zoom. Denise, can you hear me okay now that the music's off? Jason, are you able to hear me okay? Oh, great, thanks. You were like, see if we get any more oh, here we go. We got one more. Yeah, I understand. All right, we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. My name's Susan McGrath, and I am now a district digital learning coach and also a Pear Deck coach. I don't know if you can see my t-shirt. I show you the t-shirt because I am a firm believer in Pear Deck as an instrumental technology tool in your classroom. And I have the t-shirt, but I don't have the hat. I have a parrot hat, but not a pear hat. So I'm going to take that off, but I love hats and love having some fun. It's been so cold and we've been indoors. We need to get outside and do some sledding today. We got some great snow, and I just did a little sledding down my driveway and I didn't break a hip. So very excited about that. But we're going to talk today about Pear Deck and how you can use Pear Deck. Specifically, I want to focus on blended learning. A lot of us in the group today are either from an elementary school, a middle school. We have a few high school people, and we do have a contingent from Virtual Learning Academy, so hoot hoot to VLA. And so I really want to focus on where you're going to have students that you are going to teach online all the time, or where you're going to have a blended learning classroom where you have some of your students online and some of your students in the classroom with you here, hopefully next week. So for those of us that teach K through 2. So let's get our party hats on and talk about Pear Deck. So I'm going to share my screen here because for those of you that just came in, I had a title screen up just to have something up before we started. And I want to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to be kind of going in and out here. I've got the wonderful Jason Reed with me today, helping facilitate the chat and letting people in. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat, but there's going to be time when you could just turn on your, you could unmute yourself and we could talk. So this is a sample slide deck. This is the slide deck we're going to use today, and you're going to be the students for my slide deck. So I want to model this for you, but I also wanted to model a blended learning model so that you have something that you can take with you that has all our resources on it. You wouldn't have to go back in to the join code to get back into our Pear Deck Party here. So we're going to have a few things open. We're going to have a student view of Pear Deck that I'm going to share that join code with you in just a minute so you can see what it's like as a student. Then I'm going to also share out a playlist. So we'll talk about blended learning models. The 3 that I really appreciate, especially for elementary teachers, but they work for all teachers, but especially for elementary, is the playlist model and station rotations and a flipped learning classroom, something that would work really well for our VLA teachers and students and scholars would be that as well. So those are the 3 big ones that I'll kind of focus on today, and how you can use Pear Deck as a technology integration tool with those 3 models, all of which I've got links to that you can look at. So when I put up this, you can see I've got this Pear Deck menu over on the side here, which a lot of you might already know about. So I'm going to get some information to see where you're at. But then I just hit present and it wasn't in a Pear Deck. Like, you didn't have a code, there wasn't anything. So one big thing is that this is already out there in Pear Deck, ready for you to join, but not from the actual slide deck. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I started a lesson and I picked which pace I wanted to go. So we're going to see if this instructor model works. If it doesn't, then we'll come back out and I'll start a student pace model for you, or deck for you. So I'm going to click now on my projector view for you. And so I am in my Zoom, you're on Zoom. And now what I would like for you to do, and we'll see if this works, is go to a new tab and type joinpd.com. And then it will ask you for a code and you type in red kangaroos perfectly inspect misty highlighters, which makes no sense. Red kangaroos perfectly inspect misty highlighters. So that's a way to associate the code with a sentence, even though it's not, it's kind of just a funny sentence. So RKPIMH. And I can see right now in my projector view that 10 students or 11 students are connected. So I'm going to wait here for a few minutes while you've opened up another tab, typed joinpd.com as the URL, which is amazing that that's their URL. They really grabbed a hold of that. And then type the letters RKPIMH, red kangaroos perfectly inspect misty highlighters. And if you're having trouble joining that, please let us know either in the chat or you can turn your microphone on. But I've got 18 students. So that's good stuff. 19. I've got about 22 participants today, I think. All right. Okay, so again, I'm not in the slide deck. If you come back to the Zoom, you would, which you don't have to, you would see I'm in a different tab. So as the instructor, I've got my slide deck. I started a lesson. When we're going to go through all of this with you today, I've chosen the type of pace I want, and this is working. So I'm really excited if it'll still keep going. And then it comes into a new tab, which I can then access from peardeck.com. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get started here. I'm going to also open my teacher dashboard, but I'm also going to paste a link for Mr. Reed. If anybody comes in late, I'm going to copy it and paste it in the chat for him, which is something you can do if you're in Zoom with your students or scholars. You can put a direct link into the chat. Also, we'll mention how this works with your LMS and so forth. But I'm going to open my teacher dashboard. So I would like you to be in the projector view, not Zoom right now, because that's where you're as a student are going to be able to interact with me, is through the deck. So it's really important when you're using this, especially if you're using it synchronously like we are today, during a Zoom, or even in your classroom, when you're physically in the classroom and you want to have a synchronous event, that you're specifically telling students where they need to be. Are we looking at Zoom? Are you looking at your student view? And so forth. So I'm going to open my okay, so I actually have now, I have a monitor and I have Martha, my MacBook. So those of you that arrived late, I named my MacBook. So what we've got here is we have, you should have, you're not looking at Zoom right now. You are on the first slide of the Pear Deck, and you'll see the code up in the top corner. And I, as a teacher, can actually click on that to open it up for someone that might arrive late to my Zoom. or to the presentation. So I can always go back and refer to that top corner, tell them to go to joinpd.com and type in that code. So Pear Deck does a really nice job. Now I'm controlling what you see right now. So this is synchronous instructor paced. And so I actually have notes that I can have on my screen if I'm a new teacher and I don't know what I want to say. I can actually have that in my teacher dashboard, which is where I'm controlling the presentation. So again, I'm not in Google Slides controlling the presentation. I'm actually in the presentation teacher dashboard, which I opened up after I set up the lesson. Okay, so now in your student view, you should see the next slide. So this is Pear Deck's mission, which is to help teachers deliver powerful learning moments to every student every day. And this was created by teachers for teachers. And like I mentioned before, I am a huge fan of Pear Deck, not just because this t-shirt is the softest t-shirt that I've ever had, but because it is that powerful tool that you can use. And I have not had one teacher that I have worked with one-on-one that has mentioned anything bad about Pear Deck, that their students love it, that they're getting some great feedback. And it's not something you want to do every day, but it can be something really powerful for whatever you're teaching. And it has great resources. A lot of people ask me, what is the difference between Pear Deck and Nearpod? And I have a resource slide that I'll show you that shows all the differences. I feel that the big difference is Nearpod has some already engaging small lessons that it has in their library, but Pear Deck is building their library. It's called the Orchard. And I love the ability that Pear Deck has and the slides to really grab the attention. They're very, they're pretty. I hate to say they're pretty, but they're very interactive, and they are very simplistic, but very just something nice for students to look at, especially for your students that are in elementary, like we have here right now. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide, and you're going to be looking at what might be your first interactive slide. Now, this is in projector view on my Zoom that I see, but you're seeing a student view. And so you should see in your side of it, you should see some options. You should be seeing something to click on so that I can get some feedback here of who likes Pear Deck and who doesn't. So again, you don't really have an option here of where to go, but I can do a few things while you're answering. I can show responses, which I'm going to do in a second here when we get some answering. I'm going to show those on Zoom and direct you back to the Zoom. I can lock the screens, and I can set a timer. So all of those things can happen when you use the interactive slides that you see here. So this is a multiple choice slide that you're seeing right now. So I've got about 17 responses out of my class roster of 22. And I can see a number here, but they're all anonymous to me right now in the view I have them. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to try to move this over here and come back to the Zoom for a moment. If you'll come back to the Zoom once you're done answering the question. Move my dialog box here. So hopefully right now you are seeing this is now the teacher dashboard. So I wanted to show you what this looks like here, but you're going to actually go back into your student view. But I want to show you a few options you have, which we're going to look at later as well. I can see that everybody's responded, so I know I can move on. I can lock screens from here at the bottom menu. I can show responses, which I'm going to click on right now. And what that is showing you in the student view is what the responses are. So I don't need for you to come back to the Zoom if you're a student to see the responses. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But I wanted to show you where those options are. I can lock the screens again. And if I hold on to the lock screen, I can actually set a 30-second, 1 minute, or 3-minute timer on my students if I want them to quickly answer that in 30 seconds. And I can just click on that, okay? Mr. Lewis asked before about throwing in really quickly Pear Deck. One thing I wanted to show you guys real quick is you can actually create a new prompt here as well. So that there's, if I have a question inside my Pear Deck and I want to pop that question in, I can use that new prompt, okay? All right, so I would like for you now, I'm going to turn this off so it doesn't. Okay, I would like for you now to go back to your presentation tab, your student view. And then I'm going to show you the responses and talk to you about the different ways that we can look at those. So now I can hit show responses. And now you should see the responses that everyone gave. And this is great for discussion. Perfect for discussion. I can show a grid layout. I can show a, I can anonymize all my people so that you don't know who is said what. I can actually also star a few of the responses in the view so that I'm only showing those starred responses. If I have some students that really gave some good answer and I feel like that would create dialogue, I can do that as well. So all those things we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But I put this slide up here because this is how I can get to know my students. I can, if I'm giving like, how are you feeling today? I can check responses right away in the teacher dashboard. So I'm going to hide those responses now. So everything I'm doing, I'm controlling again through the teacher dashboard, and I can show notes as well. Okay, so now what you should see in your student view is basically a stop slide. And so here's where I want to show you our blended learning model. So you can, this is an instruction slide. So you can actually click on the picture below that icon, which is the DJ for our playlist today. And I have instructions that I can keep in student view, but this should then take you to our playlist today that we're going to look at. Playlist model is basically where you have a large list, as long or as short as you want it to be, of instructions that students work at their own pace. You do want to have in that playlist some kind of student check-in where they check in with you and you talk about their progress. And this playlist that I put together actually copied part of it from Catlin Tucker's playlist that she has. So I am going to go to the playlist now. If you're on the playlist, it can also be found at the bit.ly that's there. You can click on that link as well. And now you should be in another tab where you have a playlist. I can see that you guys, most of you, 10, 15 plus viewers here are on the playlist. And I can see that because it's a Google document and it shows who's on it. What I'd like for you to do in just a few minutes is I'd like for you to make a copy of this. And so we want to copy out this Pear Deck. But I'll give you guys just a few more minutes to get to that playlist so we get everybody on the playlist. And so in our slide deck, in our Pear Deck, the second step was to go ahead and go to File and make a copy. And then we're going to get started doing some asynchronous work. So what you're going to see now is I'm going to turn on, you're not going to see it, but when you get back to it, I'm going to turn on the student paced Pear Deck. I'm going to use that same Pear Deck that we just looked at. And now I'm going to turn on student paste. And so what you can do now is you're going to be able to go through the deck by yourself. Okay. And so I have a Pear Deck playlist for you. I'd love for you to go to File and Copy. And if you want to watch me do that, you can come back to the Zoom for a moment. File, and then make a copy. And then it will make a copy for you. And then you can hold on to that. I'm not going to make any editing on this. If you wanted to add a shortcut, you could go up to the folder up top and just add a shortcut. But I would rather you kind of take notes on here, make this your own later. If you want to use it, use just how it looks for a playlist on your own. It also has all the links that we're going to look at today. So anything that's in the Pear Deck itself in your student view, you'll find it here. So I wanted you to get the feel for now what a student-paced Pear Deck looks like. And so right here, we've got some instructions in our playlist. When you're doing a playlist, you can make it kind of like it's a, that you're the DJ and you've got kind of a music theme to it. It can be used for any project, any lesson, any unit. You can have it be a week's worth of work or a day's worth of work, depending on what you want to do there. But what I love about it is now, even though I know some of you have already used Pear Deck and are really using it and love it, if you've got path 1 done on your playlist, you can move on. So it's low floor, that high ceiling where you can come in and students can work at their own pace and hold them accountable for the learning. They can put notes here and then they can put the date completed. And then when they come to you during a student-teacher check-in, you can go through this. They can share the link with you, or they can pull it up on Zoom and share their screen or Google Meet. And you can then have a discussion about how things are going, where they are in their playlist, what problems they were having, and so forth. So I love the playlist model, again, because of those things, giving students that pace and ownership of their learning. It keeps things very organized in terms of directions and links that you might go out to. For your parents, it can be really helpful because they can see where things are going and what's coming up next. So lots of great things that can come from the playlist. At the top, you can look at Catlin Tucker's playlist blog, which has some other templates for you and talks more about the playlist model. And she has, I also have at the end of this, her blending learning model blog, because it's got the other models that we talked about. But I love, again, this playlist model for littles and for our VLA teachers and students, where you're not meeting all the time. You might be meeting once a week or every few days, but it kind of keeps it organized. And easily you can post this in your LMS for your Google Classroom or Canvas, and they can go out from there. So I would like for you to complete the first, second, and third, down to 4. Sorry, I think I've got you doing 1 through 4. Go back to my presentation, make sure I've got that. Yep. So I would love for you right now to go out here, and some of you might already be done and completed with step 1, where you've already have a Pear Deck account. And then I want you to go back in to the student paced view now that you have and go through slides 5 through 22. These are going to show you every type of slide imaginable that you are going to have in the Pear Deck. I put everything in there, and I would love for you to go in and put some answers in, try them, because it's going to help us out later when I talk about takeaways. So if you wouldn't mind going into slides 5 through 22, once you get your Pear Deck account set up at peardeck.com, come back to that student view slide. If you get stuck on something or you get lost, I've got the link to the Pear Deck slides right here if you need to close something out and come back in. And so if you wouldn't mind, after you set up your peardeck.com account, that you come back to the student view presentation and complete slides 5 through 22. And then we're going to actually do some work starting you adding the Pear Deck extension to your Google Slides, and then going in and just looking at that marketplace. So it's going to have you set up your Pear Deck extension, with some of you might have as well. So if you already have that Pear Deck extension, play around with slides 5 through 22. And then if you have any questions at all, let me know. While you're working on a student paced view, I can still check my teacher view and see how you're doing. So I can see that I have 15 people that are already on that first set of resource slides. So after you've set up your peardeck.com account and you are finished with that, come back into that presentation session, and you can actually use the buttons on the bottom, the arrows on the bottom, to go through the slides, because I've now changed it to a student-paced view. So this is great for asynchronous learning in a blended learning model as well.
Susan, when they log in, they will all see they have premium access, correct?
Yes, they want to use their Google single sign-on. And then, yeah, you'll see in the drop down, you should have a little crown on your head so that it should show you, if you click that, you should see that you're premium. And that is a paid, district paid, allows you to do a lot of the things that we're doing here right now, especially the teacher dashboard. So it's a wonderful thing.
Susan, I don't believe they've made the decision about premium access for the district next year. Do you have any information on that?
I do not, but we are pushing for it. That's one of the things, number one on our list, is that we'll continue to have that Pear Deck access next year. But those budget decisions haven't been made yet. We get analytics from Pear Deck, and so we can definitely show our district leaders that we have lots of teachers using it. So we hope to continue that next year. So I'm getting, on my end, I'm getting lots of feedback. And again, if I have this student pace session and I see the answers after my students have finished, I can have some great discussion the next day by displaying the responses. Again, I can star some, have some good discussion. I have some wonderful answers to how we estimated how many beans were in the mason jar. These are amazing responses. But again, what you're seeing is all different in these slides 5 through 22 here. In our playlist, we're on path 2. And again, a playlist model would be something that you would let students kind of do on their own. This is a little different because we're together, but I wanted you to get a feel for a playlist model and how you could incorporate that in your blended learning classrooms as we start phasing back in our students and scholars. So you're just getting into this presentation session right now in the student view and just getting a feel for the different types and just quickly going through so that you can see all the different types of slides that are already set for you. These are slides that Pear Deck has. And then they also have whole templates that are in there when you get to slide 12 and 13 in that slide deck. When I am showing my student responses, if I'm in a synchronous environment or asynchronous, I can do different types of layouts. So I have an overlay layout, which works great to see where my outliers might be. I can look at a grid layout where I can just see all the slides at once to get an idea of what my students or scholars answered. And then I can do a list layout, especially for reading. That's sometimes good if they're giving text responses. I have that ability in my teacher dashboard. And so that's where I am right now. I'm in the teacher dashboard area that I'm looking at. You are looking at a student view. And there's also what we call the projector view, which is what you would show up on the screen during a synchronous event. I'll try to get every type of slide in here that you can see. The draggables are really fun. And then when you get into when you get down to slide 18 or so, you're not going to see much to do except that there's a website at the bottom. And so you can click on that website, which is great because it'll link out to another tab. And you can take a look at the templates that they have available if you haven't seen those yet. But then also you can explore some content. Pear Deck has some wonderful templates called Weekly Wonders. If any of you've ever used Newsela, they have daily decks in Newsela, which are wonderful, which are actual whole decks that you can tweak, but are whole template slide decks that you can download. And then if any of you happen to be the digital citizenship coordinators for your school, I'm going to actually reference that later. They have a whole thing on digital citizenship there as well. So right now I can see that I have one student that's gotten down to slide 23 and has answered the question there. When you're finished looking at the slides back in the student presentation mode or view, excuse me, you can come down to slide 23 after you're done looking at some of the resources, playing with some of the slides as a student there, then I can literally see you typing as you're typing. And what's wonderful is I can make comments. So I'm going to try to make some comments to you right now. I'm going to make short comments just so I can see how many I... Meredith a comment here. And feedback is a big part of what Pear Deck is doing to incorporate. So they've got some new features for feedback. This is one of them, to leave comments. I'm gonna go out here real quick and answer Lee's question. All right. And Lee, I sent you a comment that has a link to Pear Deck for physical education, but I'm hoping that it's got some health content as well. And we're going to go search later, so I'll look at, for that some more. In April, we're going to actually create yours today. All right, so I can see now that I can actually see on my teacher dashboard that I've got 11 students that still haven't responded, and I can actually see their names. I love that feature in my teacher dashboard because then those are the students that I can reach out to and say, hey, you haven't finished that slide yet. And yep, Denise, we got so many social immersion learning lessons in there and slides. It's wonderful. So I can see that now 10 people haven't responded yet. And so that's wonderful because then I can see the pace. When it comes to time for my check-in, if I'm using a playlist model, when I have that student teacher check-in, I can then look at my list and say, John, you haven't finished yet. On slide 23, I really would love your response. Or why haven't you responded yet? Let's do that together. So we can really have conversation and definitely work through that. So yeah. So I've got about 9 people left. So let's do this. For those of you that are still looking around, which is wonderful. And if you have any questions as you're going through, put that in slide 23. I'll reach out to you later if we don't get it today. You can come back to that slide if you have any other questions and you want to edit your response, please feel free to, or you can put it in the chat because I'll see that as well. But now we're going to stop with the student presentation. This is a stop sign that Pear Deck made so that I can have students stop. I can also stop the student pace mode so it goes back into instructor mode, which I don't want to do yet because some of us are still finishing up with our slides. But for those of you that are done with slide 23 and didn't have any questions, you can go back to your playlist now. And what I want you to do is actually make a Pear Deck slideshow. And so we're going to do this for just a little bit. I want you to practice at least putting the add-on in if you haven't already, or if you've already added the Pear Deck extension, I want you to go ahead and find a product that you would like to play with. So if you have a slide deck that you're going to use tomorrow or next week, if you want to incorporate some Black History Month slides for next week, I have that in the playlist. If you don't have a slide deck and you just want to play with one, or look and see what a Pear Deck template looks like, you can play with that one. Click on that link in path number 3. But I would love for you to right now open up, or you can even open up a new set of slides using slides.new, which is a shortcut to opening up a new pair of slides. Mr. Lewis, if you want to open up a slide deck that you've used previously, and we can look at how to pop in a slide real quick on the fly, which is wonderful. You can do that too. But let's go in and look at completing pathway 3 and pathway 4. Pathway 4 is opening up. You'll have that add-on, and you'll see on the side is just playing around with stuff in there. We've got changing an existent slide to just asking students a question, where you just change your slide into a Pear Deck slide. You can add in actual slides from the template library, and you can even add audio. So all of that comes from adding that Pear Deck extension. Now, we get a lot of questions about if this works with PowerPoint, and we found that it doesn't work well with PowerPoint. So we would like for you to take that PowerPoint and open it up as a Google slide deck. And if you need some help with that, we can sure help you out there. But you can pull something from your Google Drive. You can just open up a slides.new and start with a brand new slide deck. But this is something that you can use things that you already have in a Google Slides, and then you can pop things in. You can use their whole template like that, the Black History Month, and you can tweak those and delete slides as you go. If you're not accustomed to Google Slides, we can help you with that as well. So let's spend about 5 minutes or so working on pathway 3 and 4 so that you have that extension and you know how to add it on. The directions are there in pathway 3, and then you'll see that Pear Deck sidebar that pops up once you've added that extension, which shows you where you can find that.
Susan, some of us are not allowed to get into that Black History Month slideshow. That slide deck is asking for permissions.
Thank you. Permissions. I'm going to force a copy of that. Sorry about that. I'll fix that right now, and then I'll pop in a new link for you in the chat. Come on, Martha. These packs, these wonder packs are amazing. And next month you'll probably see a woman, where it's the Women History Month, I think, is in March. Okay, in the chat there, if you want to come to the Zoom chat, I think I changed the permissions so you can view it. and then you can make your own copy. I thought I had that already set, but apparently when I made that copy, it messed it up. So different ways you can share Google Slides is to force a copy just by changing the edit. Everything that is in the URL after edit, you just make that copy. But I got to make sure that I shared that out correctly at the beginning, which I did not. But definitely play around here. Add that extension if you're having already, or just let's have some product that you can take with you and use tomorrow or next week. Or if you already know everything that Pear Deck has to offer, please feel free to go further in the playlist. That's what the playlist is all about, is for that differentiated learning. If you find something in there that you want to look at. And then we're going to come back here in about 3 minutes and talk about how I get these Pear Deck lessons started. And then definitely talk to you about how to put this in your LMS and the new feedback features.
Susan, we have a question in the chat about when you have a link on your original slideshow and then you use that slideshow with a Pear Deck, do those links, are they live? Do they still work? Do you know anything about how like your hyperlinks would work in the Pear Deck session?
They should still work. I don't think I've had one where the links haven't worked, but that's not to say, but it should carry over. That's a strong tool is now where you can take a PowerPoint. I'll play with it for you right now while you're working on something else. Let me grab a PowerPoint. It's a good question. We tried really hard to get, for those of you that use Microsoft, we've really tried to make that the PowerPoint work, but it can get really wonky. So I didn't do it. One of my STCs at Frederick Douglass, Mr. Stephen Green, he worked really hard with one of our teachers that had all PowerPoints and wanted to just use the PowerPoint extension, which there is one, but we were not having any luck with that. So I appreciate his efforts with that. So if I have a PowerPoint and I right click it, if it's in my Google Drive, I can actually go to open with, and then you'll see the option for Google Slides. Let me see if I can get some links to work here for you. It looks like it, you might have an issue with, I actually picked a PowerPoint that had a lot of graphics in it, and it'll give you a message at the top that says that some of those PowerPoint features can't be displayed. And mostly it was because the shapes of the shape effect would be removed if you keep it in the Google Slides, but it doesn't really look much different. And I still had links. So it looks like we're good. Jason, have you ever had any issues with links?
Not that I can think of. Sometimes I've had problems with videos playing, but I don't know if I've ever had problems with links.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Kathleen says it works now. She's got it going.
Oh, good. Great. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I am going to stop you now, ask you to come back to our student view and presentation session tab. And then again, everything that we're going to talk about right now is in the playlist, and in about 5 minutes or so, we'll come back to that playlist. I'm going to stop student paste. And then you should see in your view that you can't go anywhere. So I'm back in instructor paste, and I'm going back and forth just to check. I mentioned before, and I don't think I finished my sentence, I have a monitor and I've got Martha, my MacBook. So I can have my teacher dashboard up while I've got the presentation view up, or projector view, they call it, so that I can see responses and see where students are at. And that's, again, in a synchronous environment. And I can go in anytime and look at asynchronous. So this is just a little information about those different views. This playlist model would support an asynchronous environment, again, where students could go at their own pace, but then have those check-ins where you see those stop signs. That's where you could have a check-in where they could, if they're working on the playlist during your class period, but you've got your virtual students and your in-person students. Again, that we're still not in an in-person, that's a normal in-person that we're used to. So we're still having to use these tools so that we have that equity between those two environments and still have a cohesive community. And that's what Pear Deck allows us to do as well. So you can have it synchronous or asynchronous. Again, you have a student view, a teacher view with that teacher dashboard, but that student paced asynchronous learning, we're doing asynchronous during a synchronous event. So that's where you can actually be checking their progress on your teacher dashboard, but also you can go to sessions. So the reason I had you create that peardeck.com is so you can get busy getting into your sessions. On that home page, when you log in with your Google single sign-on, you'll see your current, like, recent decks that you've used. I like going right to the sessions tab, and the sessions tab then allows me to go in and see what my students are doing. I can go to any of my Pear Deck sessions. I like to have them for each class. For our elementary, obviously you have the same students and scholars a lot, but you could have them for different days, different, title them, however you want to organize that. I've got one more response for you to do today, and that's this one right here, which is an assessment template. And so if you'll go to again, be in that presentation student view right now and answer that question real quick for me. And then I'll be able to show you what that looks like in my pace. So you answer that real quick, and then I'm going to go in here and show you my sessions. Okay, so if you'll come to the Zoom really quick after answering that question. And I want to show you what sessions looks like. There is so many wonderful things in this peardeck.com. And I have tons of links for you on the playlist that we'll talk about in a minute. But sessions is where you can go to kind of manage your sessions. And these are the sessions that I've got here so far. I'm in a session right now, so I don't see our session yet. And I'm not going to close our session. So if you want to go back and look at anything, but you can see here, I've done some sessions that are closed. And this is just from clicking on that sessions tab at the top. If you'll come over to the Zoom, so you can see that in peardeck.com. If you already have some sessions, you could go to sessions and see. I can see that it's just a slide deck that I presented on, or if I incorporated it into my LMS. I can also look at the teacher dashboard view. I can click on the lesson to see what my students have done. And I can actually start that session over again as a live session, but I get all this information for who was on it, what they did. These are different classes that did the same lesson. And I can go in here and look to see who got on. You actually have a co-teacher feature now, a shared teacher feature, they call it, if you have a co-teacher that can be in there. And then I can see if I provided feedback and how they were feeling that day. So that's the roster. But then I can also go into the session itself. And I can open the dashboard and I can see the responses to all the slides. I'm not going to do that right now because I already have ours open. But definitely it's some great stuff as well that's in there. Okay, so if you want to go back to your presentation slide, or you can just stay here with me in the Zoom because I have this presentation up. We're not going to do any more student viewing, but again, you can put this in your LMS. You can use the link itself. You can actually go right to Google Classroom. So when you start a lesson, which is how this whole game is played, once you got that bar up from your add-on and you start a lesson, which I wanted you to kind of play with there, you can delete any sessions that come up. The minute you hit start a lesson at the top there, it will create a session for you and you can archive them in sessions, where we just were. But you can link it directly to your Google Classroom. Canvas, you can use it as an external tool and integrate it through Canvas. So there's nothing you have to do except for your assignment. You go to external tool as the type of assignment. And I've got instructions for that that you can look at if you've never done that before. And I just made no sense to you whatsoever, but we've got some great steps for that as well. Okay, so lastly, since we're kind of running out of time here, I want us to go to our playlist because I want to show you the other things that are kind of new to Pear Deck. All of this that's in this session is in that playlist. So you can I'll leave this session open. You can come back to it. I'll put it in student pace mode so that you have it to go through all the slides. And in my teacher dashboard, that is where I can add a co-teacher. It's called a shared teacher. You actually have to open up the session before you can do that. So you can't do it ahead of time. It's the only bad game of that. But let's go to the playlist, or you can just look at my screen here. And
Susan, we had a few questions in the chat about your sessions and how they show up. And so anytime you do a student paced, it will show up as a session automatically before you close it. But if it's teacher led, you have to close your lesson before the session shows up. Is that right?
Yes. And the way you add a session is just to hit that start button at the top, and then it will guide you between, here, I'll do it for you right now. Let me get, well, here, I'll just go to I can start another session here. If you come to the Zoom really quick, I start a lesson and that starts the session, and I'll show you what that looks like real quick. It gives you the choice between And this is all in that playlist with directions too. So if you forget, it's on that playlist. The student paced activity, or you can do instructed paced, which is that real-time synchronous learning. If I do student paced, it's gonna, there it goes. It just opened up my session, again, in a different tab outside of the slides. And then I can link this to my Google Classroom with the link. It's going to actually show me that, but Martha's being really slow right now. Come on, Martha. Oh, Martha, I've got too much open right now. I'm going to close this other stuff so she doesn't get mad. She's jelly. She's jelly. Okay, right here. If you're in my Zoom right here, there's the share to Google Classroom. Also, this is the link for those of you that want to use it in Canvas. You can just paste that link into the assignments, or you can go through the external tool and use it that way, which we've got instructions for in here. And then I can go to my teacher dashboard and look and see how my students are doing. And then if I don't, I can go back and just close that out. So all of those instructions are here because I want you to go sledding right now. So we are going to look at, we went through and we should be around here in path number 5 on your playlist, song number 5. How do you start the lesson? And then it talks about how you keep that around and more reading for you to look at later. Directions for Google Classroom or Canvas, because I know we have both of those. How to give feedback. So you can make comments like I did in the teacher dashboard, or you can actually even share takeaways. So I am going to share the takeaways with you after this session. And so you'll see all the slides that were in our slide deck and your answers. Okay. Unfortunately, you won't see the comments. That's the only thing I don't like about takeaways, is they don't have the comments embedded them. But when you hit the takeaway, and this is directions on how to do that, it will automatically send all your students a copy of it and their responses in their Google Drive and in an email. It's amazing. It's like notes. And that way they don't have to be going in and out and figuring out, well, where was that at? This is a PDF copy of what they did. They can, I don't think it's PDF. I think it's a Google Doc. Sorry. It's a Google Doc copy. They can't change anything, but it does have a notes section that they can type notes in, and they can use that for reassessment. You can use that for discussion when you do your check-ins with a playlist, or if you're doing a station rotation model. Wonderful, the takeaways. That's brand new, just came up recently. And wonderful thing. You'll see it in that sessions. Once you've closed the session, you can send the takeaway. Oh, so I'm gonna have to close it. I'll leave it open for a little while longer. Then you can go, this shows you how to delete sessions. So check your email for the takeaways. Anything later about pop-ups. This is Michael's question from before, how to add audio, and the accessibility features. So it has a reader feature as well, so you can watch the video on that. And then tons of resources for you. So the Orchard is where all those templates and things lie that people post and share out. You can share out your slide decks to the Orchard. That's through, again, the add-on extension. There's help from Pear Deck. We have part of this on our website if it's overwhelming and you just like, what do I need just to know to get started? And then there's a Pear Fair. So Pear Fair is this weekend. If you want to sign up, there's the link. I'll be there. Pear Deck has a Pear Fair. You can get great PD. They have wonderful swag. And you can learn more about how to incorporate Pear Deck in your classes. If you sign up and don't want to spend your Saturday, check some sessions and they'll send you the link so you can watch them later when you have time. It's a great fair. I love it. Next week, we're going to have Pear Deck for math teachers with the wonderful Mr. Jerry Broyles next Thursday, continuing our February PD. And then this is the link for Catlin Tucker's blended learning models that I talked about before. Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry, I went over a few minutes, and I appreciate you being here. If you would like us to help you, I would love to co-teach with you, or you can practice with me. We can meet on Zoom. I can walk through any of this with you. Please reach out, send me an email, or in the form here, the feedback form, click yes that you want some more help, and I'll reach out to you because I just love Pear Deck. I think you'll love it too once you get started, and you can take it as far as you want to go. So thanks so much for attending our Pear Deck party, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Get some self-care, enjoy the snow while it's still here because it's going to melt next week. And I hope you all have a wonderful, those of you that are K through 2, we'll be thinking of you, and we are here for you if you need any help with that back to the classroom. So have a great night, and please fill out that feedback form on the playlist. Jason, thank you for putting it in the chat, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. You're very welcome.
Susan, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Whenever it comes to like the student session, like I played with that and I presented it. When it comes to like a video, is there any way that I can present that for them so they don't have to toggle back and forth between Zoom and that presentation?
Yes. So if you want them to, so what I'm hearing is you want them to watch a video in the presentation,
Yes.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I found, and I'll show you if you're still on the Zoom here screen, is what I've found is that, let me come here and see if I can see it. You can embed YouTube videos in your slides, but what I've noticed, and I need to reach out to our Pear Deck people, is that the actual video, and I swear I put one in here so you could see it. The actual video will not show up, but the link will show up at the bottom. So I thought I put one in here so you could see it. And I meant to mention that because it is supposed to actually pop up for them to view in the screen, but for some reason, and I'm not seeing where I put it. Sorry about that. I thought I had a screen that actually had a video in it, but I'll show you this. When I go, I'll just put one in here real quick. So if I want to add, see if I can just add a video here. If I want to add a website, I can use that Ask Students a Question, and then I can pop the video in there. But what we're noticing is when we do the YouTube, it can't be embedded. We get this refuse to connect, but it will, when I update the slide, it'll actually show up at the bottom for them. So it's supposed to actually split the screen and show the video. I'm going to call, and because I thought maybe they had taken care of that, but I'm going to actually call our Pear Deck person and talk to them about why that's not working. So.
Right. And so the same thing with like Google Drive. If I have a video on our Google Drive, is there a spot on the right side that I could add that? Like,
yeah, you can use this website.
Okay.
And just link the website right there. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
just you go to your Google Drive, right click, copy the link, make sure it's shareable, like I messed up on. And
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, honey. Have a good night.
Thank you too.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm gonna close out our, oh wait. Jason, stay on the Zoom there.
I'm trying to ask a question too. I was typing in the chat.
I'm sorry, Mr. Young.
So I was trying to type one in the chat as opposed to just asking out loud. I can do either one. I was trying.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Trying to add Canvas, add the app to Canvas, And
you don't have to actually add the app to Canvas.
well, I mean, I know it's under their apps already, but I need a consumer code.
You don't.
Okay.
Pear Deck is wonderful that you don't need the consumer code.
Okay.
So if you go in and just create an assignment and then use the external tool, you actually can bypass a consumer code.
All right, hold
So it's a
on.
little different than like Edpuzzle.
All right, let's see.
Jason, you want to jump in on that? Here, Canvas.
You want to show? You got it pulled up right there. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to show him. I'm going to
Okay.
show that. I'm going to show you here right now. Troy had a. So I'm just going to add an assignment real quick here. But Jason's going to make sure I'm doing this right. So I've got the assignment title, assignment name,
Right.
yada, yada, yada.
They're done the submission type. Hit
Come
external.
on, Betty. Yeah, so then submission type,
External.
and then external tool. And then I can just type, I can put in my link right here, but I can also
to search it.
go to find. Hold on. I'm gonna find Pear Deck. And go down here, and it's right there. So I can go to Pear Deck, hit select. I don't think I want to load this tool in a new tab.
All right, I'm trying it right now.
Oh, due date. Yeah. Oh, shoot. I wanted to show you from a student view. Jason, can we just paste the assignment link right in there without having to go through and
I think, yeah, you could do that. in
you
your
know, yeah,
text
so I'm kind of doing it the
editor.
longer way.
Just depends on if you want it to be like embedded right there in Canvas, or if you're okay with them going to a different window.
Yeah, so you can just post the link, but I think you can paste the link in that external toolbar.
Like that's the way I have to go, is to paste the link into that external tool.
Here we go,
Because
file
it
picker.
didn't redirect me to Pear Deck once I found it.
So then I'm going to select the file that I already created the lesson for.
I'll post it right there.
Okay, and that's going to start a new session. Yeah. So you can actually do, if you're doing it this way, then you can, this will actually start the session for you. So you can go from slide deck to then starting the session inside a Canvas. And so that'll embed it for you and your students.
Okay.
So if you choose, if you go to the external tool, choose Pear Deck, click select, put the due date, and then come in here where it said file, choose a file from your drive, you can actually then start the session from inside Canvas. And so that'll embed it. Or you can just start the session already, have the session started, copy that link from a student paste session and right here, and then just paste that in, you know, inside the assignment, and they can click out of it. But I did all of my, we did all of our digital citizenship as embedded. So it was kind of nice. So I can click on here and then they should be able to see it in there.
Okay.
Yep. And if you get it, if you have any trouble with that, let us know and we'll investigate.
Okay.
And this is a teacher view, so that's why you're seeing it that way. Can I still go to student view? Let's see. right, let's delete this assignment before Miss Jackman gets mad at me. All right. All right, well, I'm gonna, I guess, get off Zoom here. Jason, I'll give you a call in a minute. Bye.